and welcome once again. Mr. Warren Hayes here, and I am privileged today to be joined by a guest of high notoriety. I am joined right now by the current NWA World Women's Champion, Kamille. Kamille, hello, welcome, and thank you for being
Hello.
here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you being here. We're talking about women's wrestling in general here today, and the progress, but we want to get to know you a little bit as well. We want to talk about you. You know, it's been documented, it's been talked about. You have you got into sports at a very young age, right?
Yep.
You achieved, among other things, softball records as you were in high school, I believe.
hmm
And you've got scholarships that were offered to you. I'm assuming that clearly sports were a big deal in your home. Am I right?
Oh yeah, I had an older brother, and so he always played sports, and then I always wanted to hang out with him and be just like him. So of course I played sports as well. And like my dad, he would toss like balloons at us for hand-eye coordination and hang up dollar bills on like the door. What would you call those? Like the
Like the
doorways, you
sill?
know. Yes, yes.
Okay.
And so we would jump to try to get the dollar bills. So we would work on our ups. So yeah, it was always kind of embedded to me my whole life.
Would you get to keep the money then if you grabbed
Oh
the
yeah,
cash?
yeah. That's what you get for jumping high. We went from the door, and then at our old house we had like a beam that was higher up, and like I knew that when you're little you can't get that beam, but then one day the dollar bills start going on the beam, and you're like, okay, it's time. It's beam time.
Okay. This is, yeah. Now you have to up your game. What sports
Yeah.
did your brother play?
He swam as well, did baseball, football. Probably both of us did soccer when we were little, but neither of us really went after the whole soccer thing. We don't like running, so yeah, that's not for us. But those types of sports.
Sure. Okay. Well, you see, you did some swimming as well.
hmm
Softball, with akin to baseball. You did gymnastics, volleyball on top of that,
hmm
and you even played in the Legends Football League, right?
Yes, I did. So I have played a little football myself. Yeah.
So you really were trying to one up them, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and despite all of that, right? Despite everything that you were into, you decided to stick. Or at least it's pro wrestling that stuck. Let's put it that way. What
hmm
what what was your thought process? What led you to pro wrestling then as your final choice?
Well, for female sports, as far as professional leagues, especially softball, that's what I would have gone pro in. It's not most of those girls, they have other jobs. It's not, it's not something you can really make a living doing. So that's
Sure.
not something I ever pursued. I tried having normal jobs. I went to the gym still, but I didn't play any sports. And if you grow up playing sports, you just kind of miss that action and teamwork and all of that. And so I remember I went to an independent show with my dad when I was visiting for Christmas or something at one point, and I just woke up the next morning, and I grew up watching wrestling with him, but I never thought of being a wrestler.
Sure.
And I woke up the next morning, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could be a wrestler. Like that combined, I used to act when I was a lot younger, and I played sports my whole life. And I was like, it combines the two. So what perfect thing to do.
Yeah, let's just go. Well, there you go. So brought everything together, and it clearly it worked. You came to most of the attention of wrestling fans when you appeared on the NWA revival a couple of years ago when Powers
hmm
debuted on YouTube at that time, and you came in as a silent, stoic, ominous presence. Kind of like you were Nick Aldis's heater essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a role that we usually see women take. How did you enjoy that to start off anyway?
Well, I actually really liked it because at that point, so I started training in 2016 and did that for a year. And then I started working the indies for a while. And I kind of got burnt out on that. I didn't know if wrestling was something that I wanted to
Oh,
continue
okay.
pursuing. And so I was done for a while. I have actually been one of those wrestlers that announced my retirement, which no one, it's like a gang. Like you're never out of it. You're never really out of it.
Exactly. They always drag you
And
back in. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
exactly. And so I get a text from David Lagana, who was like the co-president at the time, and he just said, "So hey, are you really done wrestling?" And I was kind of missing it then, and I was like, why? What do you got for me?" So he explained this role, and it was gonna possibly just be a one-off for the NWA 70 show,
Okay.
just because I was supposed to, hold Brandy still, make sure she doesn't attack Nick, nothing like that. So we didn't know what was going to happen from there. We didn't know if the chemistry was going to work out, anything like that, if the fans would even be interested in it. But we realized, like, Billy Corgan was there that night, and afterwards it was like, okay, this is it. This is something. We got something here. And we just went from there. And it was a great way to kind of dip my toe back in the wrestling world,
Sure.
without having to work matches and do this and that. It was a nice way to get back in it. And then also being under the learning tree of Nick Aldis was great for a few years.
For
So that
sure.
was wonderful.
For sure. And what's cool, at the same, it's very interesting, because, I hadn't realized that you sort of fell out of love with wrestling and you come back in this position, which clearly created a lot of buzz. Like, I'm a big fan of studio wrestling. I think it's great. So, when Power came back, I was very much into it. And your character, you had a lot of buzz, like Kamille at that time. When eventually, it was like Kamille talks, that she's going to talk this week, and you had
Right.
Joe Galley there and it's like, trying to get you to talk. It sort of became a whole thing. Did you feel that connection with the audience as, the whole Kamille thing, never speaks, and did you feel like there was a special connection with the audience at that time?
I felt like the mystery around it was really working as far as getting me, quote unquote, over and having interest, people
Yeah,
interested in
for
me.
sure.
Just because no one understood why I wouldn't talk. They didn't know if it was a me thing, if I had no tongue, if Nick was holding me back from speaking. No one could really understand the dynamic there. And it was, so that interest was really cool. But, I get a couple people that are like, oh, it was better when you didn't talk. Okay, I can't do that for you. We have to evolve here, people. We have to
Wow.
evolve. So,
Okay.
so it had to come to an end eventually. But I will say, I think, it was almost 2 years of no talking. So I think we did it justice.
I think the angle ran its course for sure,
Yes,
it did create a good amount of buzz for you. Look, the minute you start wrestling, you put yourself in a contendership role. Next thing you know, you've got the strap, right? That you won from Serena Deeb. It's it's the title with the lineage. Goes all the way back to Mildred Burke. How does it feel to hold that title?
It feels great. Like you said, there's so much history there behind it. Like at Empower, I'm sure you were there when Billy brought out Mildred Burke's original belt.
Mm-hmm.
I truly wasn't sure about the interest in it and how interested people would be in it, but everyone stood up and was clapping, and you just knew it was something special there. And that's when I was like, wow, this is amazing. And also the fact that I have evolved within the NWA, and I feel like I'm kind of like, a homegrown talent there is also something that's very special, because that's hard to find these days in
Sure.
wrestling. Everyone goes everywhere. And the fact that I've pretty much, it kind of goes Tim Storm, then Nick Aldis, then Kamille. So the fact that I've been there really since the beginning of this resurgence is something that's really special. And I'm glad that I can help the brand to grow and be the face of it.
And it has been going well. Like at Empower, you wrestled twice, right? You had that excellent match with Layla Hirsch on the first night. Well, on Empower, at Empower itself, right? I'm thinking of Empower as this 2-night event, but there were two shows. Yeah, that great match with Layla, and then another good one with Chelsea Green the next evening. So and in top spaces on both pay-per-views, right? And we're seeing more and more women's wrestling. The PWI itself, this year decided to go from 100 women to 150 to counter some of, the inequality in the business that exists, and you often hear that, Mildred Burke herself had to fight tooth and nail for everything she got. And it's still a story we heard even quite a bit, like from women who were around in the 90s and the 2000s. And even today, you still hear some of that. And you've been involved in sports outside of wrestling as well. Would you say that this is, in your experience, would you feel like this is still something that happens today, that women still have to fight a little harder to get what they have?
I think it is getting better today. I think that there's been so much spotlight kind of shown on the inequalities, that people are really fighting to put women ahead. And the thing is, sometimes, even for me, sometimes I'm like, well, we don't need to push it in everybody's face all the time. But the thing is, sometimes when you're down here, you have to push a little bit extra, 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 extra. So when it evens out, then we're equal. So I think that it's a good thing that women are being pushed to the forefront, just so when everything kind of settles back down into place, then everyone's equal.
Right. Okay. So basically, you do feel like there's always a little extra that you have to give. Is what?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I think women always have a little bit more that they have to prove.
Right. Okay. But I mean, like right now, NWA, I think is, clearly there's a path that's been drawn out by Mickey, who came in and set up the Empower show, leading a charge really for renewal and women's wrestling. I feel that's sort of trickling down everywhere. How do you feel things are changing for the women in NWA right now? Like if you specifically your home, how do you feel that's been going?
Oh, I think it's great. As you saw, we have the tag belts for the women now too, and
Yes.
so that's been super interesting and cool to see. Because even when they introduced them, I was kind of like, "Oh, who's going to be the tag teams? Who's going to team up to try to get these belts?" So that's really, shaking things up a bit. So that's been super interesting. And then the fact that I feel like I'm getting some great competitors that want to take the belt from me too, is really interesting. So I think our women's division is definitely one of the best ones around.
I agree. And you mentioned it yourself. When Billy Corgan brought out the original title. You weren't sure
Mhm.
what the reception was going to be, and when Marty Bell and I want to call her Sienna, but I shouldn't. Allison
Allison.
Kay. That's always the first reflex.
Yeah.
When they won the titles, Adam Power in the audience, everyone just went crazy for that as well. Everyone was very respectful of the title of Mildred's title as well.
Hmm.
There is a desire for women's wrestling, right? I think we can feel it.
And
Too.
I'll say this right now, the crowd for the all women show to me was better than the crowd the next night. So people were there and wanted to support and have a great time. So I really appreciated
Well,
that.
I'll tell you one thing. We were there because I'll say we because I was there, but we were there to support. But you guys put on a fantastic show at the same time. It wasn't even hard to get up
Right.
and give you all the pops.
Yep.
It was
Yep.
fantastic.
Yep.
But you said it yourself. There's a lot of women that are coming for your title. There's a lot of you're getting some good competitors. Kamille, if I break down all the walls and I give the opportunity for you to challenge anyone in any promotion in the next couple of months. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but who would Kamille like to defend the NWA World Women's title against?
Any promotion right now, I
Anyone
think
at all.
someone that's really heating it up and is great. And I think that it would put some asses in seats is Rhea Ripley.
Ooh, oh yes,
Yeah.
because you're about the are you about the same size as Rhea?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're about the same size. She's a big athletic girl. I just
Right.
think it'd be a great combat, just head to head. Let's go.
Oh, that would, as they say, it would slap. It'd be
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, that's suddenly it's the kind of match that I didn't know I wanted until you
Right.
talked about it. Kamille, I appreciate so much you taking the time to chat with me today. I really, really do. Why don't you let everyone know where they can follow you on social media just to make sure that they can stay alerted to everything that's related to Kamille?
Yes. So I'm a bit boring. All I have is Instagram really that I consistently use. So you can follow me on Instagram at Kamille with a K, Brick House. And also make sure to follow the NWA. I'm pretty sure NWA is just at NWA if you search it, but it's not the rap group. It's NWA Wrestling. So you'll see it's verified with our logo and everything like that. But make sure you follow the NWA to keep up with everything going on and everything Kamille.
It was a pleasure to talk to you, Kamille. Thank you very much, and best of luck to you in 2022.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it.